My name is Harriet, and I am a tutor at the Writing Center. As tutors, we need to ask the right questions in order to get the right answers. In this video, we are going to talk about 8 types of questions you can use during your sessions to model the thinking process and help students develop critical thinking and analytical skills. But first, we need to define a few terms. Directive tutoring is an approach where tutors act as an expert on a topic and the student as a passive absorber of information. Non-directive tutoring is another approach where students are treated as active participants. The tutor acts as a peer and guide, asking open-ended questions and working as a collaborator with the student. While tutors are usually expected to take a non-directive approach, tutors should know how to use both approaches. In my sessions, I have found that I often switch between directive and non-directive approaches, depending on my students' needs. For the purpose of this video, we are going to focus on non-directive tutoring when asking questions. There are 8 types of questions most commonly used during a tutoring session. First, probing questions are used to help students think deeper and further explore certain ideas. The Socratic questioning technique uses probing questions to produce thoughtful dialogue and encourage students to develop their own ideas. Although tutoring resources separate probing questions from Socratic questions, in the Writing Center we don't make that distinction. As a tutor, you will find that many Socratic-style questions can be considered probing questions and vice versa. Some examples of probing questions are, why do you think this is the case? How did you decide to make that your argument? And what is the connection between this example and that one? Second are clarifying questions. To clarify means to receive more information and make something clearer. We can use clarifying questions to remove the unimportant information and focus on specific information. This allows us and the students to have a better understanding of an assignment or idea. Clarifying questions can be used throughout the tutoring session. I usually ask a few clarifying questions at the beginning of my sessions. For example, after introductions, I ask, "What can I help you with today?" I also ask, "Can you summarize the prompt for your assignment? And what is the citation format?" Some other examples of clarifying questions are, what do you mean by the sentence? How could you say that in another way? And can you explain a little more about this topic? The third type is assumption questions. These ask your students about arguments in their writing that make certain assumptions. The goal of these questions is to help your students recognize the gaps in their writing. Some examples of assumption questions are, why would someone make that assumption? And what are you assuming that your audience already knows? Fourth, you can ask questions about reason or evidence that support their writing's overall claim. These questions encourage your student to think about their evidence or reasoning. Similar to the assumption questions, reason or evidence questions help students identify any gaps in their information. These questions also help determine if they need to include more information to support their claim. Some reason and evidence questions are, what would be an example of this topic? What other information do you think should be here? And could you explain your reason for including this? Fifth, you can ask questions about the origin or sources of information. These questions require students to analyze where they found certain information and why they are including it in their writing. Remember, supportive and reliable sources strengthen writing, while unreliable and biased sources weaken it. Some origin or source questions you can ask are, where did you find this information? What influenced you to think or feel this way? And has your opinion been influenced by something or someone? The sixth type is critical awareness questions, which help students consider the logic of their argument. These questions ask students to reflect on or justify certain aspects in their writing. Some examples of critical awareness questions are, what effect would that have? What is an alternative? And if that happened, what else would happen as a result? 7th are viewpoint questions. These challenge students to think about their audience and determine how their writing will affect them. Some viewpoint questions you can ask are, how would your audience respond? And what might someone with an opposing opinion say? The last type of question are refocus questions. These can be used to relate one idea to another. Refocus questions can also be used if the student goes off on a tangent and begins talking about something unrelated to their writing. Some questions you can use are, how is that related to your other idea? And how is your answer different from what you wrote here? Overall, it may seem simpler to answer some questions yourself. Instead of asking, what other information do you think should be here? You might want to say, I think you need to add more evidence to support your topic. The first approach is non-directive because it engages your student in a conversation. The second approach is directive because you are telling the student what they should add. While some students might not be able to answer your question right away, asking a non-directive question instead of telling them to do something will give them a chance to think it through on their own. One thing to remember is that although questions can accomplish many things, some students can be easily frustrated when tutors constantly use a non-directive approach. Instead of immediately taking a directive approach and answering your own question, you can use other non-directive methods. Some non-directive methods you can use are asking a follow-up question or encouraging your student to use another resource to help them find the answer. In summary, the non-directive tutoring approach uses questions to engage students in conversations about their writing. These questions also challenge students to analyze and understand their writing in a new way. Feel free to re-watch this video or refer to the handbook if you have any questions. Thanks for watching!